Hi, and welcome back to round 2 of the Monstrosity. We are still using our little sunshines, but this time, instead of deciding which card deck we're going to use, we're doing 5 crowns because we did phase 10 last time, and we're not starting where we started last time. We're picking a brand new starting place. So let me get out of the way so we can start. Okay. I still have all of these books left to read and a couple of TBR games still left to play. So, jumping over here onto our board, the first thing we need to do is pick a number 1 to 87 so we know where we're starting on the board. Okay, 1 to 87, 53 is where we're starting. We're starting on Sims TBR, which means when we finish, that's where we'll be. And it's funny that we're 3 spaces from where we started last time. Also, I know something looked weird about these numbers, and there are 94 of them, and I don't know what is keeping me from being able to count them correctly. Well, okay, that's not true. I do know. These big squares right here, I thought they counted for 4, or I was counting them for 1 when they should be counted for 2, because we count them when we come this way on this one, and I count it when we come this way on the pink. So I'm going to count again and get to the actual 53. Or no, I'm going to do one out of actual 94 spaces. So let me just fix this completely. I don't know what happened. 71. Let me get to 71. Okay. So now we're on the inside right here of this blue, the M&M TBR, which is where we will end it when we finish. So we're in the middle of the blue. All of that for a bunch of weirdness. Let me get my card so we can see what we're doing. Now, these cards look like regular decks of cards where you have, that is clubs and you have spades, but you also have stars. So it's called 5 crowns because you have 5 suits. Okay, so you have the normal hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades, but then you also have stars, and we have jokers in here as well. So they all over here have their own things. There are no aces and there are no 2s. So for 5 crowns, it just starts with 3s. So let me go through. It's a very large deck as well. It's like a double-sized deck or something. So let me go through and shuffle, and then we will draw. The prompts are mostly the same for probably 3 through, it looks like Queen kind of follows along the same line as the 3 through 12. But the jokers make us go back 10 spaces, but we read 2 books. We read 1 at 5 and then 1 back at 5. So it's like a -10, or the opposite of what a 10 does, which is read 5 and 5. Okay, so it's all been shuffled together. Here is draw number 1. It's a 3, and we have to do all 3 prompts. So let's see what those are. So we have scavenger hunt to pick our book, first letter, last letter based on what we picked, and then a genre wheel to see what's next. So let me get the scavenger hunt questions and let's do it. Okay, so I'm getting this from Kayla at Books and Lala. So she says, grab your favorite book, go to the acknowledgments, and the first name you see, find a book by that author with the same name. Okay, here are all the books that I read in the last round of this. So I'm going to choose my favorite from here, and then we'll see where I go from there. So I really liked The Only One Left. I really liked Part of Your World. I really liked Bride. I liked Sorcery. I liked Ascendant. So I think I'm going to pick The Only One Left and go from there. Okay. So, from the publisher, they gave Megan Abbott and Rachel Hawkins both like blurbed. And over here, I was thinking I might have a Rachel Hawkins, but I do not. Okay, I'm looking through the prompts for the scavenger hunt, and I just realized that it was Peter who originally did this 6 years before. So, it's linked down here. But I'm just looking at these, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? Okay, so pick something on the cover of a book by Rachel Hawkins. Okay, hold on. Okay, I thought for sure I had a Rachel Hawkins book, but I know I own one of her books. Right here, Reckless Girls. I own Reckless Girls. Okay, so pick something on that cover and find a book with that thing in the title. Okay, so we have flowers, we have yellow, and we have grass or leaves or palm branches. I know immediately, there's also like a rip or a tear in it. So if I have a book that's got rip or tear, but I know that Yellowface is a book. Okay, and so I'm going with Yellowface. It says, go to page 50, line 5, pick a word and find a title with that word. Well, I can't go look at it. I can't look at page 50, but I can pull this up. And I'm going to go to page 5 or about halfway down. I'll just randomly stop at 70% of the way through here and we will find line 5. Okay, they're not listed in pages. So page numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Father died. I don't struggle to breathe. I don't lay awake in the mornings. So we've got breathe. We've got lie, died, father, struggle, awake. I'm not trying to find these yet, just because I know we're eventually going to make our way to one of these. But I think I am going to go where sleeping girls lie. That says lie, which was in the thing. So then it says find a 5-star read with the same colors on the cover. This book, that's what it looks like on the cover. So it's got brown, gray, black, yellow, brick colored in the building. So Divinity's Twilight kind of has the same, but it's not a 5-star. I don't know what it is because I haven't read it. But there's no yellow on Divinity's Twilight. Or I was thinking Servant Mage also doesn't have any yellow on it. The C.L. Clark, this Unbroken, might have a lot of the same colors because we're dealing with brick color, like a yellow and a cloudy color. Okay, I know it's not a 5-star, but I'm going with that one. Find a book you would recommend that's similar. Okay, well, it was supposed to be a 5-star, but this is way harder than I thought when I decided to put Scavenger Hunt on my list to be able to choose a book. Maybe I need to come up with my own scavenger hunt questions. That's something that you guys can help me with. My scavenger hunt prompts for finding a book that's already picked on my TBR. I would love some options or ideas of how to do a scavenger hunt for it. So I'm just going to say it needs to be a fantasy. This is a fiction, fantasy, LGBTQI+. So I'm going to click. Okay, so here is readers also enjoyed. So these are some that would be similar to this. So I'm going to go with Nona the Ninth. So take the most common letters seen in the title and find an author whose name starts with that letter. So I'm doing Nona the Ninth, which you know is going to be N's. N. Yeah, it has 4 N's. So an author that starts with N, Nora Roberts, right here on this page. So for this, The Inheritance, I have to then find a book that has the same number of pages. Okay, so we're going to have to skip some of these because I realize that we have so many that I just can't do, trying to keep them within my parameters of my little thing. So we're going to skip down to the one that says find another title with the same number of letters and then find a book with a similar cover. And that's what we're going to read. So I'm going to go back over here and we have The Inheritance. Oh no, it's just called Inheritance. And it has 11 letters. I even counted it twice because you know how I am with counting recently to make sure I got it right. And Dear Mrs. Bird, the very first one I found, has 11 letters in the title. So I want to find a similar book that has yellow background and maybe a person on the cover. Well, I have a yellow background with people on the cover, but I already read that one. Mimi Lee Gets a Clue might be the best yellow background with people on the cover that I have. I don't know that C.L. Clark counts. It is yellow on the cover, and it does have one woman that takes up the most spot. King Tut has a yellow background, but there's not a person on the cover. But if I were comparing Dear Mrs. Bird to any of the rest of these, the King Tut book does stand out to me as being the most similar. And I know it's because the predominant background color. So I think I'm going with that. So weird that's what we're kicking off this new one with is a nonfiction but that's okay. I'm not mad at it. That's our scavenger hunt. Now, it's called King Tut. So it ends with a T. So I have to find a book over here that begins with a T. And I'm not going to count the unless I have to. Oh, we already have Things in Jars. Okay, it's the only one that's not the. So we're going with Things in Jars. And then let's go look at a genre wheel. Okay, I think this is the one we used last time, hopefully. Spin for your genre. Yes, it is. Okay, spin it. Spin it. Here we go. Please be something that I have on my list that I can easily find. Horror. Great. Have it. So I'm going to start up here at the top and work my way across. I don't think an eye for an eye is horror. In my dreams, I hold a knife might be horror. Where sleeping girls lie might be. Okay, let me go do some looking real quick. Nope. Fiction, crime, thriller. That one is also thriller. This one is listed as mystery. It's also listed as YA. Okay, I'm probably going to have to go all the way down. Destroyer is horror. And I just got it in the mail. So that is going to be great. And that is what I'm going to read. Volume 1. Yes. So we have nonfiction. I'm not sure what Things in Jars is. Maybe literary fiction. And then Destroyer, which is horror. This is fantasy, mystery fiction. Okay, awesome. So, sounds good to me. Nonfiction, fantasy, horror. Perfect. I will check back in with you when I have finished King Tut or if I'm reading King Tut and have things to talk about. I'm so excited to be jumping back into Monstrosity. Not excited that we're starting out with 3 spaces and 3 books. But let me move my sunshine over to King Tut. And there we go. Ready to start this second round. Okay, I finished The Murder of King Tut by James Patterson. And I had a little bit of a problem with it. Here it is, part of my game of Goose, TBR. Okay, it's listed as a nonfiction mystery or okay, it says it on the cover. Let me go look. Yeah, okay, it says a nonfiction thriller right here. The Plot to Kill the Child King, a nonfiction thriller. Okay, so my problem with it is it's absolutely fiction. Like, it's fiction. Including, okay, like, we hear from King Tut's point of view as a child and then as a teenager, and we're inside his head and his thoughts and feelings. Does that not mean that it's fiction? Because we don't know what he was thinking and feeling. He didn't write it down. So, I don't know. You guys explain to me how this is a nonfiction thriller, because it felt like a fiction novel to me that was based on real people. Like, that's what it felt like. I don't think there's anything presented in here that I didn't already know just from going to a couple of King Tut exhibits. Maybe I watched some documentary or something years ago about King Tut and potentially him being murdered. I just don't know what was new about this. It was pretty short. I know that James Patterson had a good time writing it. And we got to see his process. Like, he even put himself in there and was like, I was sitting in my office and my wife came in and here's what we were talking about. Like, all of that in a nonfiction way. But then the actual stuff that's happening in the book, now I didn't necessarily feel that way about the excavation time period people. Like, that felt more like a nonfiction look at those people because they were based on diary entries and they were based on like eyewitness testimony. So we knew what those people were thinking and what they thought when they first saw the things in the tomb when it was opened. But we don't know anything about King Tut. So I don't know how I feel about it. Anyway, it's over, and I'm starting Things in Jars, which I clearly know nothing about since I didn't even know it was a fantasy last night. Now, I did want to show you a couple of things. I went to my local indie bookstore, and I got Uzumaki by Junji Ito. Junji Ito, yes. Okay, and Uzumaki is a manga, so we read it from the back, and right here on this very first page it says, "This is Korazucho, where I grew up. I would like to share with you. And then it says the strange events that took place here. I know I was holding that off of camera, but that's this one. And then on the back of it / front of it for us, it says spirals. This town is contaminated with spirals. Okay. I've heard that it's really good and it's also really scary. Then I picked up The Complete Persepolis. So I don't know anything about it. The art is all black and white. I did see that it had something to do. The author was born in Iran, and it says, I can't believe I just called it Iran, like I'm from Arkansas. The author is from Iran. And it's the story of Satrapi's unforgettable childhood and coming of age within a large and loving family in Tehran during the Islamic Revolution. So we're going to see the Complete Persepolis. I have heard a lot of people talking about it. Okay, and then the other thing. When I finish Things in Jars, which I'm covering all of this up, so you can't really see, but when I finish Things in Jars, I'm going to move over to the Destroyer. So I went ahead and got it down because y'all know when I'm reading graphic novels or when I'm reading physical books, look at it. Look at the artwork in here. Oh, it looks so cool. All right, when I'm reading this, I kind of need to read it along with my audiobook. So I will probably start that tomorrow. I'm heading up to bed right now. I'm going to read Things in Jars tonight. And then tomorrow I will be reading this while I'm finishing up Things in Jars. And then we'll get to pick another card and hopefully move more than 3 spaces reading 3 books. Wow. Okay. So that's it. That's my update for tonight. I'm so excited. Tomorrow is Monday. I love Mondays. I don't know about y'all, but also I'm starting a new job this week. Or maybe I'm starting a new job this week. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. I am getting like all of my checkups I have to do a background check and all kinds of stuff before my new job. So I'm doing that this week. I don't know that I'm starting this week, but I'm doing all of that. I did get hired. Anyway, and that's it. So I will check in with you guys when I finish Things in Jars. Okay, first of all, I got a new shirt. This is the first time I wore it, and I got stuff on it. You see this? What? Anyway, it was just a little t-shirt on sale for like $4, but still, like the first time I wore it. Anyway, I'm down to my last book. I'm reading The Destroyer. I have finished Things in Jars. And listen, Things in Jars are like gross things in jars. I don't know if you, like me, in school had to dissect any animals, but you know, things are preserved in jars in some kind of way. And that's what this is, Things in Jars. It's set in the 1800s. It's like a fantasy version of scientific experimentation gone wrong situation. That was a cool concept. I really liked the way everything in the world worked. I love that we had a female who was a detective in the 1800s and nobody wanted to take her seriously. I liked a lot about it. I did not like how many switches there were in between past and present and different people's past when we would be in those POVs and where we were. Maybe if I read this physically, that would be easier for me to follow or understand, but it did not translate well into the audio version. So that was the only thing about it that I didn't like. Now that I'm reading Destroyer, I need to draw my next card and see what's going to be next. So I'm going to do a couple of shuffles. I just need to move forward and not have to read 3 books in a row to move forward 3 spaces. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's an 8. Okay, so I think the 8 works the same way in this on 5 crowns as it worked on the other one. Yes, slide forward 2 once we get done with 8, and then I get to pick the prompt. So here we go. So the 8 is M&M TBR, or slide forward 2, and it is the 50 before 50 book. So let's see what's on my M&M TBR. I still have Jade City on hold, but I think if it was ready to go right now, I would read that. Do I want to read one of these, or do I want to read a 50 before 50 book? Okay, I think I'm going to do The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. So I'm going to read an M&M TBR book. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this here, even though technically I'm still on Destroyer, but I'll come back and tell you what I think about Destroyer when I finish reading it. Okay, we are drawing another card. I can't believe that I've already done 4 books in this round and I've only drawn 2 cards. So this is going to be our last draw for this episode. I realized that I got so carried away in the last one, in the last round, not the last episode, but that one of our episodes is so long because I just kept drawing and drawing and drawing. So I'm going to make sure I don't do that this time. Let's talk about the books that I have finished. Hopefully, I talked about things in jars. I honestly can't remember. Oh, I do remember that I did. Yes. Okay. And The Destroyer. Okay, first of all, it is a TV show apparently. Also, we got a blurb by Joe Hill. Also, if you've noticed, second also, that my video has been backwards. I'm not going to tell you how stupid I was, but it's fixed now. Anyway, so this book, how am I going to, Frankenstein situation, I guess, is how I will describe it. I mean, we can kind of see the little boy on the front definitely looks altered in some kind of way. So that's all I'm going to say about it. And then I think I'm going to try to find the TV show and watch it. If it's out, maybe it's not out yet. Anyway, we'll figure out something. Then I got to come all the way around the board to right here, and I got The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. Y'all, I loved this book. It was just like a love letter to librarians, especially the librarians in the Appalachian Mountains that took the books around to everybody. And oh my gosh, like, I just think that is very cool. It's not the first book actually that I've read about those librarians. They carried books to the rural areas up there in Kentucky that do not have like road access or anything like that. They would have to go by mule or by donkey or horse or however they could get up there and bring books to them. And so I loved that aspect of it. And then it had the other aspect of her being part of the Blue family in Kentucky, meaning that they're all genetic carriers of a blood disorder that normally makes people sick if they contract it. But if you're born with it and it's a genetic thing, then it doesn't make you sick. And so, but of course, this is set in the early 1900s and there were bigots everywhere. There was segregation that was happening. And because she was not white, she was colored, literally the color blue. And so she had to deal with some discrimination that had to do with that. Also, apparently she fell under the law of not marrying outside of your own color, like somebody that's not the same color as you. And she's the last blue person. So what is she supposed to do? But anyway, there's a lot of stuff in this book. And I thought that it was just fantastic. So good. So I'm going to shuffle our cards and we are going to pick the next one. Oh, a 6. I guess we're reading 2 more books, but it is our last card that we have drawn. So 6 means we go 3 and 3. Let me double check and just make sure. Yeah, 3 and 3. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, an after hours book, and then 1, 2, 3, a new author. Okay, so let me go to after hours. We have a lot of options. There are 10 of them. I'm just going to tell my phone. There's not any that I'm like, ooh, I want to read that. So I'm just going to tell my phone to pick one. Pick a number 1 to 10. You can't, she didn't say it out loud. It's number 2. Oh, it's because my phone is, okay. Well, it's number 2, which is a scary book, but that's okay. I'm going to read it. Come Out Tonight by Richard Lehman. Okay, and then a new author. Well, I haven't read anything by A.J. Pierce, and that will be the final one for Allison's Spinner Wheel game, and it'll be gone. So I think I'll read Dear Mrs. Bird for that one and be completely done with that TBR. Okay, so we're going from scary to, I don't know, just contemporary fiction. Maybe that's historical fiction. I have no idea. We'll find out when we get there. But first, scary. So I will update you when I have finished Come Out Tonight, and then we'll start our last book. I like the way this round is going already. Yes, we've read quite a few books, but we've made quite a bit of progress around the board, which is always good. Okay, I super hate it when I talk and talk and talk about a book and I did not unpause my microphone so you guys cannot hear it. Richard Lehman wrote a book called Come Out Tonight, and it was not a great book. It was awful. It was awful. I usually don't give 1-star reviews because honestly, if I don't like a book that much, I just DNF it. But I did not. I kept reading and it did not get any better. The characters were awful. Every female character in this book was stupid and got in the car with strangers. Every male character in this book was just out to rape and murder, and that was it. There were 2 people who did not share those traits in this whole entire book. Everybody else, that's how they were. Super stupid, super deviant. That's it. I saw a review over on Goodreads, and the review said, I like Richard Lehman, and if this is the book you're starting with, put it down and start with a different book. And I didn't see that till after I had finished reading. So even fans of Richard Lehman do not recommend that you read this book. So it was just not good. It was not good. It's some of the worst characters I've ever seen. Some of the stupidest females that I have ever seen. And why everybody, I don't know. I mean, I've read some Stephen King books where I'm like, why is everybody evil? Or why is everybody mean? And that's exactly how this book was. Minus those 2 people who were not like that and they were punished for it. Anyway, that's it. The number of stupid women who got into cars with men, even after escaping a car with a stranger, they would go right back into another car with another stranger. I'm like, what? I've never seen such stupidity in all of my life. Anyway, I'm glad that's over. Now I'm going to read Dear Mrs. Bird, and hopefully this episode will end on a high note. I will be back when I have finished. Okay, I'm done. I finished this episode, the first episode of our second round, and I read Dear Mrs. Bird. Now, I thought this was just going to be a little fluffy. I mean, I should know because y'all know I have an issue with historical fiction, and it's this right here. This is why. They just like to sneak in all the sad things into these historical fiction books. We were fine with the story about a girl who wanted to be a journalist, and so she went to work at a newspaper, and she was helping the woman who wrote advice columns, and the woman refused to write to answer certain questions or problems that she considered to be vulgar. So our girl started answering them on the sly. That would have been a great book. But this was all set against the background of the raids on England in World War II. So we're also dealing with that. And she has a second job where she works at the fire station and answers phone calls from people who their houses have been damaged during one of the raids, or they've had their neighbor's house is completely destroyed and there's started a fire. And this is something that I just didn't know, probably just because I've never been taught about this. But one of the things that they had to do was, let's say somebody's at your house. Number one, you couldn't use any light sources while you were outside. But also, if you were going to open your door to let someone in, you had to turn all the lights off and then open the door so that no light spilled out. Because if there were planes up ahead and they saw lights coming on and off, then that's where they would aim their bombs. So they had to keep everything really dark. Anyway, just things that happen in historical fiction books that I don't generally read about or think about. Anyway, the book was very, very, very good. I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that I had The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek and Dear Mrs. Bird on either end of that stupid Come Out Tonight book so that I could just forget about that. Based on the 2 books, the one that came before and after, great books. Also, I would just like to say that I have passed the prompt that says read an over 500-page book. So I'm good to go. I don't have to read an over 500-page book. I mean, I will because they're in my list, but that's not going to be a requirement anymore. So this is where we end this first episode. I had 6 books, 5 books and a graphic novel. This was a great reading week. I do start a new little part-time job to get me out of the house for a few hours every day at a library right near my house. So I'm going to be sharing things from the library, I'm sure, but that's going to be coming up later. I don't know how it's going to change things. It shouldn't mess with my upload schedule. 3 days a week seems to work fine for me. And so I don't see that that's going to be changing, but it could because of the new job, which starts next week. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.